Like and subscribe right now, or this will be in your bed tonight. Hello and welcome back to ProRevenge. Before we start, please scroll down and click the like and subscribe button. This means that you will get more videos from me. All you have to do is click like and subscribe, and it will really help me out and make my day. Thanks. Fire me before I quit. I ruin your life. Since I'm still in school, I took a job at a bakery of types which I won't name. The place has bread in the name, but also sells overpriced salads and sandwiches. I worked there for close to a year, where I had this boss named Betty, not her real name of course. Betty and I didn't get along whatsoever. She had gotten the previous general manager to quit because she had an affair with him, and she threatened to tell his wife if he didn't leave. He quickly left the job, and she was promoted to the position. I didn't like her, but I have to respect the dedication to be the general manager of a small ass store. When I first started working there, I was respectful, but she would do things that would get on my nerves. For instance, I would clean all the places I would be hired to do, and once I was done and relaxed for maybe 5 minutes, she would run out of the manager's office screeching, "Why aren't you working?" I would tell her of course I did my job, and as a cashier, if nobody is there to help, then I didn't have anything to do. She would glare at me, then I would see her accidentally drop an entire pot of brewed coffee onto my freshly mopped floor for me to clean. So I learned quickly to always look busy. Once she realized I was going to kneel and kiss the ground she walked on, she started dropping my hours. The store ran on a Game of Thrones type politics for who got promotions and raises. Somehow all her friends were managers and would bully the rest of us. She was barely at work. She would drive to my job clock just in case corporate decided to check her hours. So she was essentially stealing hours. When you clocked in, it printed out a small piece of paper telling when you clocked in. She would just drop them on the floor for me to clean up. I would usually pick them up and stick them into a pocket. So this led to me finding Betty clock in and out stubs in my pocket at my house. This will be important for later. Did I mention she was super racist? She was white and the most of the staff were my fellow high school peers who were almost LPOC. One day at work she walked out and told us, "When you're on the clock I own you." When we all reacted to look at her, she backpedaled and was like, "I didn't mean it like that." This will be important for later. So after a while I got sick of practically begging for hours. So I went to my current job, but decided I merely wanted to drop my hours, which were already barely a day a week. But suddenly when I got my new job, she scheduled me every single day of an entire week. She never did that, even when we were on semi-good terms. So I obviously told her I had a new job and couldn't do this. After that I went home and called my friend who was still working there to tell him I was going to quit tomorrow. He has a bad habit of putting his phone on speaker when he's cleaning at work. So Betty overheard this obviously. The next day I walk in and go through the respectful motions of saying, "Thank you for the opportunity" and blah blah blah. Betty let me get through the entire speech before she said, "Oh yeah, I was meaning to tell you, you're fired." I was so blindsided and pissed I cussed her out. My mom raised me to treat women with respect, but this fucking fat overweight hippo looking bitch pissed me TF off. She's the type of girl to think binge eating was a personality trait. So I left and was mad about being fired before I could quit, but didn't push the issue. I'm only 18 and I already had another job. I wasn't expecting Betty to give me a good reference anyway. I would have completely left it alone if it wasn't for the district manager Ben, not real name, texting me. The revenge. He thought I was still working there, so I explained to him I was fired. He was stunned due to the fact that I was a decent employee. He asked why she let me go, and I explained it to him, and he was angry. He clarified that she fired me before I quit, and I said yes. He was pissed that she did this, and asked if there was anything else she might have done. I kind of just vented to him for a bit. When I told him about the racist remark, he asked if anyone else would collaborate with me. I forgot to mention that she slowly fired and forced people to quit and replaced them with her friends and family, which according to company policy she couldn't do. Something about conflict of interest. I asked all the people who were working that day if they could, and a few said they would say they did. But one did even better. My one coworker Andy is convinced he's the next big vlogger, so he always has his phone out or just using audio recording for hours for a chance to catch a funny clip. I've watched his content and let me say it's just super cringe. But turns out he labels each recording by the day and times. So when he checked he found her making racist remarks. I got a brilliant idea, and with my other fired or co-workers forced to quit, we decided to scour Andy's recordings. We found some great moments of Betty saying controversial things or just being nasty, like once a guest sneezed on the baked pastries, and when a coworker told her, she laughed it off and said nobody would know. But this wasn't enough for me. I try to avoid conflict, but when I'm in a situation I'll follow it through. I looked her up on Facebook and found out she was married. Nobody knew this, so when she had the affair with the other manager and basically blackmailed him, she was also married and cheating. I don't think anyone ever cared enough to find out, because she was a nasty old lady. So I found the old manager's Facebook and found out he and his wife were separated. Turns out, even after he quit, Betty was still trying to blackmail money out of him. When he didn't, she told his wife anyway, causing his wife to divorce him and basically leave him to go back to live with his parents. I did some research, and in my state blackmail or extortion is a third-degree penalty, which has a maximum of 7 years in prison with a fine over 10k to the victim. So I told the old manager what my plan was for her. He agreed to call the cops on her, but I asked if he'd wait until I finished my part first. He said he'd give me a week. So I met with District Manager Ben and showed him all our evidence. The recordings and the written statements from my other ex-coworkers and people who were still working there. I also gave Ben the slips of paper when Betty clocked in and then left and returned 8 to 10 hours later to clock out. Ben thanked me for the information and then I left. A few days later, while walking past the store, I noticed it was closed in the middle of the day. I texted a guy who still worked there and he told me everything. Turns out Ben first checked the security cameras to see if she was there for the full time she claimed to be. Big surprise, she wasn't. So Ben decided to investigate the store's expenses, since if she's lying about her time, what else could she be stealing? He found out she was stealing money from the store. The guy didn't fully explain how she was, but just that she was. Turns out she was breaking out of health and safety codes and used the money for repairs and etc. for herself. So she was fired immediately along with all of her minions, and that left barely anybody to run the store. They shut down to clean up the store and fix things she didn't make. So she's out of a job, and Mark told her husband with photo proof, Granny Nude Zaiku, that she cheated on him. But Mark phrased it so it seemed like she still was. So Betty's husband flips out and decides to divorce her, and Betty is the type to post everything on Facebook. So she's begging someone to let her stay, but all of her friends and family totally bailed on her. So she was living in her car looking for a job. That's when Mark decides to sue her for extortion. So she scrambles to find a lawyer, and to make it even worse, the company decided to sue her for all the money she stole, and plus all the repairs and lost revenue while the store is closed. Betty's life is shit. She had to sell her car for drastically under what it's worth to pay for all the legal trouble. Mark told me bits and pieces of her crying in the courtroom, but not too much. I was never super close with him. Last I heard of Betty, she was living with her sister, who definitely hates her. To think she would have avoided all of this if she just let me quit. TL. Doctor, my manager fired me before I could quit, so I got her fired, divorced, and sued for extortion and fraud. Cross post from MC. Don't tell people how to do their job if you don't know how it should be done, as the title says. This was originally posted in MC, but I was suggested to post it here. If this doesn't belong here or is better suited for another revenge thread, let me know. 3. Standard warnings. I ain't a native English speaker, so don't eat me over poor spelling/grammar. So, backstory. I used to work at a factory who suffered severely under a director who wanted to make more money, with little idea as to how you run a factory, or how you see through people trying to BS you to gain favor. One person in particular was notorious for licking buttholes. When I started, he was the boss for about a third of the production unit. And as it happened, he was also the guy who took over whenever my own boss needed time off, was out liaising with other companies, or otherwise wasn't on company grounds. This guy had a massive superiority complex and couldn't handle being wrong or having made a mistake, and just to make it better he was also clueless about quite a lot of things outside the machina shop where he was the boss. Safe to say my partner and I really disliked him and made an active effort to work against his stupidity whenever he was our acting boss. So, as for the story itself, my partner and I made up the company's goods reception and quality control department. Basically our job was to receive the goods and inspect that everything was in order, correct amount had been delivered, no transport or production damage or mistakes, and then prepare the things for storage. But as you might expect, sometimes things weren't quite in order, some things were unimportant, and we just ignored them. Most things we send in to get them repaired, since most mistakes were fixable, and then send a bill to the contractor who were hired for the job, and a few things we discarded because they were broken beyond what we could repair. And this particular clone was allowed to green light things that my partner and I had sent in to get repaired. So, one day, the director comes out with the head of productions behind him, wanting to know why a particular type of good from a particular contractor always got sent in for repair, and I do mean every time, and we explained that because purchase opted to use the cheapest place to get these things done. Quite frankly, one particular part was supper, but it could be fixed, so it wasn't really a big deal. He wasn't happy with that explanation and wanted to get someone who knew of such things to have a look at it. Cue Mr. Clone himself, who takes one look at them and goes, oh those are fucking perfect, right as they're supposed to be. And director tells us to just send them on their way. My partner, a fairly temperamental guy, was furious, but we made a plan. And so, Clone and director left, but head of production stayed behind. With every piece of good we received, we'd pull the schematics in order to be sure if everything was in order or not. And then on this schematic we'd write some addition information, purchase number, steel certificate, ECT, so that we could easily trace everything back should there be a problem. And for this particular thing, we drew an arrow to the part that was done incorrectly, wrote what the problem was, and approved by Mr. Clone, asked the production manager to sign it, and off the goods went. 5 minutes later, we got a call from storage. So, what is the deal with these goods? Why ain't they in the machina shop? Well, because Mr. Clone said they're okay, and the director is backing him up. Insert CURSEWORDS*. We then briefed him on the plan, and he was somewhat happy. So, about 2 weeks later, our trap sprung. Our assembly unit, whom I'd already spoken to, needed these particular parts, and they received the ones that weren't made correctly, so they of course contacted their boss, who, according to plan, didn't contact my boss since he was away, but the director himself, about how quality control had really messed up. Of course, the director came flying over, howling and screaming about our incompetence. To which my partner and I calmly asked him, so, it's about those specific parts creating this particular problem? Well, yes, you bloody morons. The director then called for Mr. Clone to come and straighten us out. Mr. Clone stood there, all smug, expecting his next big promotion, but we called storage and asked our storage worker to bring up the pallet with the remaining goods and the schematic that had a very neatly approved by Mr. Clone, signed, production manager written on it. The half a second it took him to realize that these goods that risked delaying the shipment and thus costing a small fortune in delays had been green lighted by him was priceless. His face went from oh yay, I'm securing my seat as the next production manager to oh fuck, I'm gonna get fired for this. He was later told to stay right away from the quality control department, and my partner and I, as well as our boss, celebrated with cake. Edit. Spelling mistakes. Thank you all for watching to the end of the video. But before you go, please like and subscribe for more. Not many of you at all that watch are subscribed or like the video, and this makes me unsure if I should continue to make more content or not. So if you want more content, please like and subscribe. If you don't want to miss out on any future videos, click the bell icon next to the subscribe button. Also, please give me some feedback in the comment section about what I can do better, because not many people comment on my videos, so I have no idea of people's opinions of thoughts about this YouTube channel. So yeah, That's all from me. If you have subscribed and liked the video, please consider sharing the video with your friends. Thanks and bye. I'm still doing daily uploads, so hope to see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.